Why, hello there. When we first stepped into the lands between, we were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go on a grand adventure with lofty dreams of becoming Elden Lord. So FromSoft placed this to bring us back down to Earth, and they repeat this trick in Shadow of the Erd Tree. As the Shadow Tree serves as a twisted shadow of the Erd Tree, this bastard is a dark reflection of the Tree Sentinel as a welcome party of pain to bring us back down to Earth as we embark on a new adventure. This guy is a Curseblade, and their similarities to the Tree Sentinel aren't just mechanical. If you've ever wondered what the deal is with these dramatically dancing demons, this is the video for you. Over the next few minutes, we'll discuss who the Curseblades are, their goals, and how Messmer's crusade changed everything. Let's get into it. Before they were known as Curseblades, they were the Tower Ascetics of the Hornsent. An ascetic... Oh hey, sorry to interrupt myself and pause the video for a moment here, but I just wanted to quickly say that despite my very conversational tone, I'm actually just talking into the void that is my computer when I'm making these videos, and it's only through subscribing to the channel, liking my videos, and leaving thoughtful comments do I know that other people want to hear me geek out about games. So I'd really sincerely appreciate your support through subscribing to the channel if you want to hear more, liking the video if you enjoyed it, and leaving a comment to share your thoughts and truly make this a conversation. Anyways, pardon the interruption, I'll back it up here for you and we can get on with the show. Before they were known as Curseblades, they were the Tower Ascetics of the Hornsent. An ascetic is someone who practices self-denial and forgoes worldly comforts to heighten spirituality. Their humble garb illustrates this, being simple in design and offering little in the way of protection from the elements. The most ornate element of their dress is the mask, featuring a crown of horns to invoke divinity, as horns are considered by the Hornsent to be a sacred gift of the Crucible, and tangled horns a symbol of spirituality. They also carry circular blades known as the Curseblade Cirque, which were once used by the ascetics during ritualistic dances to self-flagellate. Which, even though that sounds like a lot of fun, was actually another form of self-denial in their ascetic practices. But why are these Tower Ascetics trying so hard to max out their spirituality through an austere lifestyle decked out in horns and dancing with barbed wire hula hoops? They did all this in pursuit of their goal to become a tutelary deity. A tutelary deity is a deity who is the guardian or protector of something specific, like a particular location, culture, occupation, etc. I spoke with fellow creator and lore nerd Loki DS about the tutelary deities in the Japanese text of the game. Big thanks to Loki for the additional insight, and you can find links to Loki's work in the description below. Loki explained in the Japanese text that they're referred to as land gods, with land meaning a particular village or area and not referring to the entire land of the tower. We see ascetics who achieve this goal to become a tutelary deity around the Land of Shadow as these large, withered corpses holding revered spirit ash. Loki again offered some additional insight with the Japanese text, translating the Japanese ascetic attire description as apparel of the Tower Ascetic who strictly regulate themselves and pile on austerities. They boost their spirituality via asceticism in order to one day become an actualized land god. Loki explains that the word actualized is more literally becoming Buddha in the Japanese, referring to monks who practice austerity to the point of dying and mummifying themselves. We've seen FromSoft feature a twisted version of this self-mummification process with the Senpo monks in Sekiro, and this additional insight from the Japanese translation fits with the visual representation of the tutelary deities as large, mummified corpses. Bringing it all together, the Tower Ascetics practice severe asceticism in hopes of ultimately achieving self-mummification to become a local guardian deity to one of the many villages and regions around the land of the tower. So now that we better understand the Tower Ascetics, we can explore how they went from spiritual ascetics seeking transcendence through self-mummification to becoming the scourge known as the Curseblades. And speaking of deities and cursed swordsmen, I recently read a book called The First Scars by Ivor K. Hill. Mr. Hill reached out to me about doing a promotion for his book, and before agreeing to it, I wanted to do due diligence and check it out. Well, checking it out quickly became me staying up late and reading it cover to cover. As Mr. Hill's dark fantasy world quickly pulled me in, it kept me thoroughly engaged. One reviewer described the book as the mysterious world building of Dark Souls and Elden Ring with the epic scope and character driven detail of Brandon Sanderson. The book focuses on the branded warriors marked by the church to repel a druidic curse that has claimed one of the fatherland's greatest cities. With this mark, the branded are able to resurrect after being killed. Sound familiar? The first scars wear its inspirations on its sleeve, but it's not defined by them. It explores similar themes and concepts that I love as a Souls fan, but uses the medium of writing to more personally and fully explore the nature of being an undead warrior. I enjoyed following the characters and the twists and turns of their narratives, but I must admit that, like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, it was the bleak atmosphere and expert world building that most engaged me. The mythology and cosmology of the world is well considered and expertly sprinkled throughout the novel, and there are plenty of loose ends and mysteries that I can't wait to learn more about in the next 2 books of the Soulbrand trilogy that The First Scars is the opening for. You may have noticed that there was no paid promotion notice at the start, and that's because I turned down Mr. Hill's generous offer of sponsoring a video for 2 reasons. The first is simply that I'm a fan of the book, and it is, surprisingly, Hill's debut novel, and it's important to me to lift up other small-time folks trying to get their stuff out into the world, whose work I earnestly enjoy. The other reason is that it's free to read on Kindle Unlimited, how I read it, and a very affordable book to pick up otherwise. And I am buying a copy for my shelf because I like physical media, and I also want to throw my support behind the Soulsbrand trilogy because I need to know what's going on behind the fog in Book 2. So if any of that sounds compelling to you, I highly recommend checking out The First Scars by Ivor K. Hill. Now, let's get back to discussing the Curseblades. Although the Tower Ascetics strove to become tutelary deities, not all of them succeeded. Those who failed to become tutelary deities were shunned and imprisoned. Curseblade Labyrinth and Curseblade Mira are 2 such examples. The Tarnished fights Labyrinth in the depths of the Bonnie jail, and upon defeating her receives Mira's ashes. From these ashes we learn that Labyrinth and Mira met while imprisoned within the Bonnie jail. They became close with one another, as evidenced by the devastating darkness that Labyrinth is described as to falling into upon Mira's death. It's a brutal fate to commit to severe ascetic practices in order to become a tutelary deity, and then to be shunned and imprisoned for failing to do so. However, I think there's a logic, albeit a cruel logic, as to why the Hornsent did this. The condemned of these jails were sliced up and harvested to fill the great jars, in the hopes of the innards being reborn into sainthood. My speculation is that the failed ascetics, with their intense spirituality, would make for desirable material for the great jars in the eyes of the Hornsent. If they could not achieve their primary goal of becoming a tutelary deity, their severe asceticism made their flesh ideal as innards for great jars as a secondary purpose. And it crossed my mind that these failed ascetics, with their intense spirituality and goals of transcendence, may have seen being harvested for the great jars as noble. However, in considering it further, I now believe the opposite is true, that being harvested is a particularly cruel fate for failed ascetics. Their ultimate goal was to become a tutelary deity through severe asceticism, culminating in self-mummification. Having their bodies sliced up and used for jar innards would annihilate any hopes they may have retained of achieving that goal. This is reinforced by the fact that not only are they imprisoned, but they're also shunned, rejected by the Hornsent. Being sent to the jails to be harvested is a cruel fate for anyone, including the ascetics. Labyrinth's devastating darkness that befell her upon Mira's death was due not only to her losing someone who was close to her, but also because the manner of Mira's death was so thoroughly counter to their shared dream of becoming tutelary deities. And I think that it was also this devastating darkness that kept Labyrinth down in the Bonnie jail, even after the failed ascetics were given a new purpose as Curseblades. When Messmer's crusade invaded the land of the Hornsent, the failed ascetics once imprisoned were now given a new purpose: to repel invaders. And this is when I think they were given the Curseblade title, and in Curseblade Mirror's item description are described as a scourge for those who attempted to invade the Hornsent homeland. In researching this video, I debated whether Curseblade was a name given to them by the Hornsent or by Messmer's forces. Ultimately, I think there are arguments for both. They could be seen as a curse put upon Messmer's forces, considering they were seen as a scourge for invaders. However, this title of Curseblade coming from the Hornsent also has some interesting connotations that may help further flesh out why they may have been unable to become tutelary deities. Let me explain. As we previously discussed, they were shunned Hornsent who were formerly imprisoned for failing to become tutelary deities and could be seen as cursed by the Hornsent for that reason alone. However, in this video by last protagonist about the Hornsent, he discusses the Hornsent and additional meaning found in the Japanese text. I highly recommend checking it out for more details about what I discuss here, and you can find it linked below. In his video, last protagonist discusses a couple topics that I'd like to bring together. The first is about the divine invocation practiced by the Hornsent. Hornsent warriors and ascetics are described as practicing divine invocation, which last protagonist explains is implied to involve letting spirits, kami in the Japanese, into oneself. The second topic from LP's video that I'm going to bring into this discussion is that of the Hornsent having a cursed blood, and how that ties into kegare, a Shinto term for uncleanliness and defilement. As part of this discussion, last protagonist mentioned how kami in Japanese mythology hate kegare. Again, I highly recommend watching LP's video for more detail about these topics. Taking these two ideas together, it made me wonder if part of the reason that these ascetics were shunned was that their ascetic practices failed to purify them enough to adequately invoke spirits. Divine invocation is used by the Hornsent warriors to channel divine beasts, but the tutelary deities are described as having revered spirit ashes slowly accumulate in their hands, evidence of them evoking spirits. My speculation is that the severe ascetic practices were to purify their bodies of kegare to invoke spirits, and being unable to purify themselves ultimately resulted in them being unable to transcend into tutelary deities through self-mummification. Bringing this all the way around, these failed ascetics could be called Curseblades by the Hornsent specifically because they failed to purify their cursed blood and achieve divine invocation, and were therefore shunned and repurposed as defenders of their homeland from Messmer's crusade. And I think that is not a bad deal for the Curseblades. Not only does it sound way better than being harvested for a great jar, but if their life's goal is to become a tutelary deity, a local guardian of the land of the tower, then finding new purpose as a protector of their homeland feels like it has some resonance to their original goal. Their cirques, blades once used on themselves in a ritualistic, ascetic practice of spirituality, are now turned into spilling the blood of invaders in a ritualistic dance of war. Going back to the beginning of the video, their role as defenders of the land is the similarity the Curseblades have with the Tree Sentinels. In both the Lands Between and the Land of Shadow, the first pain in the ass the players are likely to encounter is someone defending their land from an invading force, which honestly sounds fair. It doesn't make getting murked by them sting any less, but at least their aggression is pretty well justified. And there you have it, the story behind the Curseblade ascetics. Tower Ascetics who failed to become tutelary deities and instead became defenders of the land of the Hornsent. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about these guys, as well as any memorable encounters you had with them during your time in the Land of Shadow. I'd like to once again thank Loki DS and Last Protagonist for their insight into nuances provided by the Japanese text of the game, and I highly recommend checking out their work if you haven't. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and please subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on so you never miss out on new Elden Ring content. If you like game design discussions, please check out my video about the Shadow Realm blessing mechanic from Shadow the Erdtree. And if you like both game design and lore discussion, and the Spanish-inspired action platformer Blasphemous, and like ridiculously long and thorough videos, please check out my 5-hour Blasphemous critique. Both videos can be found at the end of this video as well as linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.